Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in blue, and we are learning to use trigonometry to find the unknown sides of right angle triangles. And the key part for today, we're using trigonometry and we're trying to find out about the sides. I've got 3 questions for us in yellow, and we're going to go through those in a little bit. But before we start that, I just wanted to go through the 4-step process I'm wanting you guys to follow for these types of questions. So the first one we're very confident we know all about, but we've got to label the sides of our triangle. And don't forget, it could be H for hypotenuse, O for opposite, or A for adjacent. So that's always the first thing you got to do. And this bit's going to be a bit new to us. Once you've labeled the sides, you've got to determine the formula that you're wanting to use. And hopefully you remember from the last video, we looked at stuff called sine, cos, and tan. There are 3 formulas, and you got to find the one that's relevant to your triangle. Once we've done that, we then substitute what we know. And once we've substituted, we've got an algebraic equation, so we can go ahead and solve. So before we move on to the questions, we'll focus a bit more on this idea of determining the formula. And if you remember from last time, we had 3 formulas. The first one was sine angle equals O over H. We also had cos angle equals A over H. And finally, we had tan angle equals O over A. Now, there are 3 formulas, and the formula you use depend on the 2 sides of the triangle you're looking at. So if you have the hypotenuse and the opposite, you're going to be using the sine rule. If you have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, you're going to be using cosine. And finally, if you've got the opposite and the adjacent, you're going to be using a tangent. How I remember these formulas, and this is a common abbreviation, but SO Ka Toa. So that decides you what. So you see sine, how it's got the OH, that relates to the OH part of the equation. Ka is cos, and that's got AH. And finally, tan is OA, which has O and A. Let's have a look at our first question, question number A, and we're going to follow our process. First step, can you label the sides of this right angle triangle? So we're going to start off with the right angle, and opposite to that is the hypotenuse. We're then going to find the given angle, that's the 40 degrees. Opposite to that is the opposite, and finally we've got the right angle and the given angle. Between those is the adjacent. So if you look at our question, you can see we know the H, and we're trying to find out the O. And this A value here, we don't care about that side at all. We're not interested in what it is, and we haven't been given it, so we don't care about A, so we're going to cross that out. And these 2 letters left over, or the ones that are circled, they tell you which equation we're going to look at. So we've labeled the sides. I'm now going to write down my abbreviation. So I'm going to write SO Ka Toa, and I'm now going to figure out which one relates to the letters I've got left. And I've got O and H, so that means I'm going to be dealing with SO, because it's got SOH. So once I've done that, I'm going to write down the formula that I'm interested in. So sine angle equals O over H. I'm now going to substitute. So I know that the angle is 40 degrees. That's inside my triangle. So I'm going to write angle equals 40. I know my O, that's going to be equal to X, because I don't know what that is. And my H, that's going to be equal to 100, because I've been told that's 100 centimeters. I'm going to put all 3 parts of those into my equation. So I've got sine 40. So notice the angle's gone away, and I put the number in instead. That's going to be equal to X divided by 100. So the O has become the X, and the H has become the 100. I'm now going to use a bit of algebra, because now it's just an algebraic equation. And the big thing I want to emphasize, this sine 40, if you remember from the previous video, sine 40 is just a number. It relates to the ratio if you're dealing with the opposite and the hypotenuse, and it's 40 degrees. So that's just a number. So what we're going to do is this division, that times 100, or that divided by 100, is going to become a times 100. So we're going to do that to both sides. So it's going to be 100 times sine 40 equals x. So those two cancel each other out, leaving us with the x by itself. And we've got 100 times sine 40 as well. And you're going to put that into your calculator. X is going to be equal to 100 times sine 40. And that gets me to 64.3. And that's centimeters with a 1 dp rounding. If you're getting a different number or a number that's really far off, it means your calculator's in the wrong mode. So ask your teacher, how do I get my calculator into something called degrees mode? Because you're probably in radians mode by mistake. So that was our first question sorted. Move on to question B, and we're going to start off with our right angle. Opposite to that is the hypotenuse. So we're labeling our sides. There's the given angle. Opposite to that is the opposite. And there's the right angle and the given angle. In between those is the adjacent. So we've labeled our sides. We've now got to identify the formula. So let's write down SOHCAHTOA to help us with that. And we're going to circle the sides we care about, and we're going to cross out the one we don't care about. So we've been given H, which means we care about that side. We want to know Y, which means we care about this side. And if you ever look at this side O, we don't want to find it out, and we haven't been given it, so I'm going to cross it out. I don't care about that side. So I'm left with A and H, and I'm now going to go to my SOHCAHTOA. Which one has A and H? And that's the ka part of it. So that means we're going to be using the cos rule. So we've got cos angle equals A over H. And that was from our equations before. And we will have a formula sheet, and we will have reference to those during our tests and exams. We now are going through so we've done the sides, done the formula. We're now going to substitute. So let's find out what all our values are. So our angle, well, that's going to be 30 degrees. That's given to us in the triangle. Our A value, that's going to be Y. That's the thing we don't know about. That's up the top. And finally, our H value is going to be equal to 75. That's down the bottom there. We're going to put all three parts into the equation. So that's going to become cos 30 is equal to Y divided by 75. I'm now going to get rid of this divide by 75 and do times 75. So they're cancelling each other out. And I've got to do that on this side over here as well. So that means it's going to be 75 times cos 30 equals Y. This is where I've got the letter by itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and calculate what this part here is. It's going to be Y is going to be equal to, so let's go 75 times cos 30. That is equal to 65.0 meters, and that there had a 1 dp rounding. Just a reminder, if your number is really off and it's not close to that number, it means your calculator is in the wrong setting. And the final question we're going to look at, question C, following our four-step process again, let's label our sides. So here's the right angle. Opposite to that is the hypotenuse. Here's the given angle. Opposite to that is the opposite. And we got the right angle and the given angle. Opposite to that, or in between those, is the adjacent. We've now got to determine the formula. So we've got to cross out the side we do not care about. So we care about the O because we've been given that. We care about the A because we're trying to calculate that number. And this H, we haven't been told it, and we haven't been asked to calculate it, so we don't care about this one here. So that's our labeling the sides. We're now going to determine the formula. So let's write down SOHCAHTOA just to help us out with that. What two letters are we left with? Well, we've got an A. So that's going to be the TOA part of SOHCAHTOA. So that makes tan. So we've got tan angle equals O over A. We're now moving on to, so we've determined the formula. We're now going to substitute. So what are the three values we care about? The angle is 42. That's inside the triangle. The O value is equal to 1.8. And the A value, well, that's going to be equal to A as well. By chance, the letters are the exact same, but normally the letters are different. So we've got tan the angle goes away and we're going to put in our number. So that's tan 42 is going to be equal to 1.8 divided by A. Now this question is a little bit different to the other ones because if you have a look at the other ones that I've just circled, the letter is on the top and the numbers are on the bottom. So that just means the algebra is a little bit different. So when that happens is you just go times and times. But this time around it's different. So when the letter's on the bottom, you're just going to switch those two around. So that means A is going to be equal to 1.8 divided by tan 42. So hopefully you can see how I've switched the A and the tan 42. They're a different way around now. And once you've done that, grab your calculator out. 1.8 divided by tan 42 equals, I'm getting 2.0 kilometers, and that had a 1 dp rounding. So the answer on my calculator is 1.9991, but I've rounded that up to 2. Just a reminder, if your number is really different, that means your calculator's in the wrong setting. Chat with your teacher about how to get onto degrees mode. So guys, really complicated stuff we're looking at today. Hopefully it all's beginning to make sense. We're going to have a few lessons on this. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Now let's get into heaps of practice.